He swept the marble floor as if it were his last day on earth, because it might just be. The sound of his broom echoed through the empty lobby, each stroke wiping away not just dust, but another piece of his pride. To the world, he was just a janitor. But to his daughter, he was a hero, a man who'd traded his dreams for hospital bills, school lunches, and bedtime stories told under flickering light bulbs. What he didn't know was that the woman about to destroy his livelihood was also the mother of the little girl whose life he had once saved. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. The morning started like any other. Daniel arrived at the towering glass building 5 minutes early, as always. His gray uniform hung loose on his thin frame, and his hands, cracked from years of cleaning chemicals, clutched a mop handle like it was his lifeline. He smiled politely at the security guard, nodded to the receptionist, and disappeared into the maze of offices before anyone important could notice him, but someone did. From the corner office on the top floor, Eleanor Drake, the billionaire CEO of Drake Innovations, watched everything. To her, efficiency was God. Every minute wasted was money lost, and every face in her building was a cost on a spreadsheet. She didn't know Daniel's name. She didn't know he sometimes skipped his own lunch to buy snacks for the interns who couldn't afford the overpriced cafeteria food. She didn't know he was raising a little girl on his own. All she knew was that numbers were down, and someone needed to pay. When the HR email came that afternoon, Daniel's world froze. ***, position terminated. Effective immediately. No warning. No explanation. Just an order to clean out his locker. He stood in the dim janitor's closet, staring at the uniform he'd worn for 8 years. His eyes burned, but he refused to cry. His daughter, Lily, was waiting at home, 9 years old, full of light and questions about the world he was trying so hard to protect her from. She didn't know that her dad hadn't been able to pay rent last month. She didn't know he'd sold his old car to keep her in school. And she definitely didn't know that the same company whose hallways he mopped was about to throw him away like he was nothing. That night, he walked home through the rain, his shoes soaked, his heart heavier than the bucket he pushed every day. Lily was waiting by the window, her drawings scattered across the table. She ran to him, wrapping her arms around his legs, eyes bright. "Daddy, guess what? I got picked to paint for the school fair." Daniel forced a smile. "That's amazing, sweetheart." He didn't tell her about the email. Not yet, but fate has a cruel way of spinning stories. The next morning, while Daniel searched for any job that would take him, Eleanor sat in her glass office, sipping coffee and signing documents she didn't read. One of them crossed her desk, a charity request from the city hospital. Her eyes flickered briefly over a familiar name in the report, Lily Carter. Age 6. Survived due to anonymous donor and emergency blood transfusion provided by Daniel Carter. ****, her pen froze. That name, it tugged at something distant, something buried. She closed the file quickly, shaking her head. It didn't matter. People helped people all the time. But deep down, something unsettled her. That night, the company hosted a fundraiser for children's health programs. Eleanor arrived in a black dress that whispered power. Cameras flashed. Speeches echoed. And then, from the back of the room, a small voice spoke into the microphone. My name is Lily Carter. And I just want to say thank you to the man who saved my life." The crowd fell silent. Eleanor's chest tightened. The girl, Daniel's daughter, stood there in a simple yellow dress, holding a crumpled drawing of a man pushing a hospital gurney. "He gave me his blood when I was dying," Lily said softly. "He didn't even know me. But he saved me. And then, with all the innocence in the world, she looked up and smiled. "He's my daddy." Eleanor's glass slipped from her hand. It shattered against the marble. The next day, Daniel was sitting on a park bench, clutching a folded eviction notice, when a sleek black car stopped beside him. The door opened, and Eleanor stepped out. She wasn't wearing her usual armor of pride, no perfect hair, no sharp voice. Just quiet guilt in her eyes. "Mr. Carter," she said softly, "I owe you an apology." Daniel didn't respond. His hands trembled as he stood. "Ma'am, I don't need apologies. I just need to feed my daughter." Eleanor looked away, shame flashing across her face. "I didn't know," she whispered. "When I signed that paper. I didn't know who you were." "You didn't have to," Daniel said. "I was just a janitor." She stepped closer, her voice cracking. "You were the man who saved my child." Daniel froze. "You're, what?" Eleanor nodded, tears forming. "My daughter, Mia. She was the girl in the hospital 5 years ago. The blood transfusion, you were the donor." The world seemed to still. Two parents, both broken, both fighting for their children, stood in silence, bound by an invisible thread of fate. "I fired the man who saved my child," Eleanor whispered. "And I don't know how to live with that." Daniel swallowed hard. "Then don't live with it," he said quietly. "Do something about it." 2 weeks later, the janitor closet in Drake Innovations was gone. In its place stood a new office, modest but bright. The nameplate on the door read, "Daniel Carter, Head of Employee Care and Operations." He didn't understand why life worked the way it did, why pain had to carve its lessons so deep before grace could fill the cracks. But when he picked up Lily from school that day, her little hand in his, he realized something. Sometimes losing everything is what it takes to be seen. As they walked past the glass building that had once humiliated him, he caught a glimpse of Eleanor through the window. She smiled, a small, genuine smile, and nodded in quiet gratitude. Daniel smiled back. Not because he'd won, but because he'd learned something far more powerful. No act of kindness is ever wasted. It always finds its way home, sometimes through a stranger, sometimes through a child's whisper, and sometimes through the heart of the person who once broke you.